Aha! Welcome back, everyone. It is I, Artist Teching, back again. I have just finished one of my greatest masterpieces. I have depicted Barry in a very surreal slash abstract slash modern slash late Renaissance. I painted Barry back here with the great Sharpie, the finest of all art tools. Yes. Barry, of course, it's Sunday, so he has the day off. He is replaced by a pixel art fireflower and a nice rooster here. But yes, I think he will really much like his depiction when he comes back. I think it's fabulous. Okay, so today's video, we will be talking about the Ato Ato no Mi, the art fruit, wielded by Giolla. Okay. I should probably explain what that was about. That's just something I do. No. The fruit itself, very fascinating, very interesting. It's one of the more abstract devil fruits in the world of One Piece. See what I did there, Fireflower? Yeah. No. But the user of the fruit, one member of the Treble Army of the Don Quixote do Flamingo family. Oh, she did a thing that I simply can never forgive. She broke the single taboo in the world of One Piece. Yes, she in fact messed with one of the Straw Hat Pirates' most defining characteristics. There's a lot of sacred things in this world you don't screw with, ladies and gentlemen. Brook's afro, for instance. But even if she would have messed with Brook's afro, even if she would have went all Freaky Fred Courage the Cowardly Dog and just buzzed all of Brook's afro off, you know, that wouldn't have made me as upset of what she actually did. She could have waxed Sanji's eyebrow. She could have taken Luffy's straw hat. Luffy's hat! His most cherished possession. One of the most iconic images of the entire manga that's been going on for 21 plus years. She could have taken Luffy's hat, ripped it up, burned it, taken the ash, mixed it with bear food, fed it to a grizzly bear. The bear, you know, has its natural biological process, and then taken its leavings and then thrown them into an active volcano. And I would have been still more forgiving than what she actually did. Jola took away Nami's boobs. There's a special place in hell for people like you, Jola. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, really, because we're not talking about Jola herself. Let's just talk about her devil fruit. Let's just move on with that seething rage. Okay, so the art fruit gives the user the ability to manipulate art. Right out of the gate, you can, I mean, depending on how you view art, because art is largely subjective on what you consider to be art, you could look back here and say, oh god, this is the furthest thing from art. You could say this is art. You know, you could say whatever you really want, and what you prefer to be art is art. So it's a little bit more of a subjective kind of stance there on that kind of devil fruit, what it is. So, and also there's different kinds of art out there in the world. There's modernism, as we see here with the pedestal table by André Masson. Cubism, as Pablo Picasso painted. Abstract, of course, which is what seems like what Jola mostly focuses on with her devil fruit, although we do also see some aspects of cubism there. Keep in mind, I'm not an art fan. I'm artist teching, but I'm not really that big into art. I mean, I've been to museums before, I've seen some really cool art, but I don't personally go out of my way to go and appreciate art, so I pretty much just did a crash course for this video. This is the most cultured I've ever felt, talking about a story where you have a character that is a cyborg that runs on Coca-Cola and a rock and roll dancing skeleton. Here I am researching the fine works of Edvard Munch, who of course drew the Scream, or the Scream of Nature, which is what actually Brook transforms into whenever Jola uses her powers, and that's more of a expressionist. Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, I'm gonna say Van Gogh though, because I watched that episode of Doctor Who with Matt Smith, and he said Van Gogh, so I'm gonna go with Matt Smith 100% on this one. Van Gogh's Starry Sky, my favorite Van Gogh, which I'm sure is a lot of people's favorites. Love the use of blue there. Kind of made a little bit more disturbing by the fact you realize he drew that or painted that when he was in fact in an insane asylum at the time, and he was, with Van Gogh there. But anyway, yeah, so that's some interesting art examples there. So using the power of the art fruit, you could transform anything, living or otherwise, into whatever your preferred, view of art is. If Jola was more into like modern kind of art, modernism, then she could have changed the Straw Hat Crew and the Thousand Sunny into that, something more modern. If her concept of art was a little bit more crude, like for me, like all I could really draw is like this, and like this is the best thing I've ever drawn when I was like in 7th grade. Beyond that, and this took me longer than I'm caring to admit, but beyond that, most of the stuff I can do is just stick figures. So if I ate the art fruit, could I just like bring little stick figures to life and just, have them attack my enemies and stuff, right? So it's actually, when you think about it, when you back up and just stop looking at the way Jola herself used it in the One Piece story, this fruit actually has a lot of applications on just what it can turn things into. Essentially, and if we're just going to take this into the broadest way possible, her fruit allows her to transform anything she wants into any shape, any size, any color, any form that she desires. She could take a sword and transform it into like just a deflated balloon. So you're like, Jola, I'm gonna defeat you. If that's her concept of art, then that's what happens. And I think she even kind of did do that, where she like deflated weapons and stuff when she used it against the crew, similar to the Persistence of Memory, the Salvador Dali surrealism painting, okay? That one that I'm sure, the melting clocks, I'm sure we've probably all seen this one as well in our lives, okay? So yeah, if you just look at it in the really broad sense, where she can make a sharp object blunt or deflated, or she can make a really heavy object really light, or she could just change the structure of something so that's no longer it can no longer operate, like changing the shape of the Thousand Sunnies so it's no longer aerodynamic, it's no longer a seafaring vessel, you can't sail with something like this. You could change somebody's body around, like removing Nami's or she could, like, more practically than that, she could, like, take your foot and, like, turn it into a triangle. Or, I guess, a pyramid, if we're using, like, imagine that. Like, you're just transforming your foot into a pyramid, and you're like, what the, how do you, and the pointy end's, like, on the bottom, so it's like, how are you gonna walk with that? So it's just, you've rendered your opponent pretty much immobile. The situation with Brook is that she transformed his sword cane into, like, this weird, like, it was still, like, you could tell what it was supposed to be, but you couldn't actually use it as a cane. It was, like, this weird shaped thing that you just couldn't use. And so that's actually how Brook managed to trick her into defeating her, was that he was like, oh, I would love to play this, except my cane is what I use to play my violin, and you changed it so I can no longer use it. You have to change it back so I can play it. And then she's like, oh, sure, absolutely. And she transformed it back into normal. And then, of course, that's when he revealed he had his sword cane inside of it the whole time, which meant that while she transformed it into something else, he could no longer access the function of the sword cane. Or even if he could pull out the sword, Soul Solid, it would not be sharp anymore. It would be deflated, or it wouldn't be practical to use in combat, okay? So, yeah, the way that Brook defeated Jola was kind of just, going along with her. Her weakness was that she was really full of herself. She loved her art more than anything. She was very, very upset about critics, okay? So she probably wouldn't like me very much, but she's like, anybody that criticizes her art, she views as, like, unclean, and I must merge you into art. And she had that one piece that transformed, like, dying art, where she'd made this giant mural, and people got absorbed into the mural and kind of, like, stuck in there, and she implied that eventually you would just stay inside of that art until you would starve or just dehydrate or suffocate, and you would be part of her art permanently, okay? So the only way around that was Brook noticed it early on, Brook being an artist himself with the musical variety rather than the painting variety, and Brook realized, oh man, she's really full of herself. Okay, so Brook just started complimenting her artistic skills, like, Jola-san, this art is magnificent, magnifique, I just created a word, yay! But it's just like, it's the most amazing piece of art I've ever seen in my life, I'll just keep on creating it. And so, yeah, from Momo and Chopper and Nami's perspective, it's like, Brook, what the hell? Are you turning on us? Like, what's going on here? But of course, that was just all an act on Brook's part, so he was just like, oh, could you transform my cane back? And she's like, absolutely, Soul King! Poof! He's like, thank you, Jola-san, but, omae wa mo shinderu. Nani? Ching! And just slices her down! Like, that's fine art right there. Now, that's actually not how Jola, that's not how she got taken out of the arc. She actually showed up later at the very end when she was trying to use Mancheri's heal powers to make her cry to heal all of the members of the Doflamingo family that were defeated, right? But Leo showed up and finally defeated her with his cross-stitch powers. So we didn't really get to see her use the art powers against Leo. That was kind of defeated before she even really knew what was going on with the cross-stitch and everything. But yeah, so I'm gonna say Brook was the one that truly took Giolla down, okay? Now, in the anime, this fight is expanded upon a little bit, where even after slicing her down with the sword, I believe, she got back up, like that wasn't enough to take her down, and she resorted to her ultimate technique, which is anime only. Heaven's Door Auto. So, Heaven's Door! So, Rohan Kishibe, you have a lawsuit on your hands, sir. You can file that for Jola, take her for everything she's worth. But no, Heaven's Door, I'm just gonna say, it's Do, but Heaven's Door, it's Heaven's Door. She creates this pocket dimension sort of deal, where everything inside is to her liking in terms of art, so very abstract, expressionist kind of art in there. She transforms into a giant totem pole wing thing. She transforms into this. I don't really have any explanation on why she chose to take that form, but maybe that's just like her ultimate, like this is her version of the strongest a human being could appear. Like this is the ultimate life form. This is her final form. I'm gonna transform into something you won't be able to defeat, and that just happened to be what she viewed it as, so that's what she became. The sky, the sea, everything around you in this pocket dimension just seems to get all warped, but it doesn't really last long because the crew fire the Gao cannon at it, and it just seems like if you fire off enough force, it just shatters this dimension. So, yeah, I'm imagining maybe what this ability really was is not really so much a pocket dimension, but maybe she just created just like a big dome around her where like the paint like just on the inside of it, so it looks like, oh, the sky is whirly and stuff, or oh, the ground is different, but really you're just trapped in this like paint dome, and then you just fire enough energy and you just shatter it into 1,000 pieces and it just breaks. And at that point, Jola was defeated. So she had a little bit more action in the anime than in the manga, but beyond that, even though she did show up later in the story, we don't actually get to see her using the art powers again, and she was defeated by Leo pretty handily there. So, yeah, interesting concept here. Like I said, you could do really a number of stuff with this. Now, Jola, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm not a fan of her, but in terms of, like, the paintings and stuff she created, I mean, that's not bad artwork. Like I said, this is largely subjective in how you view it, and this kind of artwork was just very abstract, so it doesn't make it bad. So she was a talented painter. Oda even drew her in her younger years as a painter, which, by the way, I'll mention this again. I brought it up in the Doflamingo video. Jola at age 45, Jola at age 51. So, like I said, with Oda specifically, it's late 40s, or like when you hit 50 exactly, that's when your body just goes through some kind of metamorphosis in the One Piece world, okay? We've narrowed it down to that 6-year little gap there, so we'll see where it goes, right? What happens is she kind of like makes this weird technicolor fog, this smoke that changes color, and anything that comes in contact with the smoke is changed to her liking, whatever she views as like what would make like, oh yes, that skeleton, Brook the Soul King, I'll transform him into the Scream. With Nami, I'll take away her boobs. With Chopper, cubism, 100%. I'll turn Momo's body into a peach, because Momo, it means peach. So, yeah, there you go. But it seems like the size of the, like, and we saw that with the Heaven's Door ability, although that was only in the anime, she can make some really large things with her power. So, could she just make, like, a giant smoke cloud of this paint, and then just, like, throw it into the air, and just, poof! Giant meteor! Considering it is paint, and we didn't really get to see it used in this way or any weakness here, but considering it's paint and she is a devil fruit user, water? Water or oil or something that could in real life destroy actual paint, would that also some kind of solvent, something that you could throw at her, and if you, like, let's say, yeah, you transform like Brook transforms into the Scream. If Brook were, I mean, he's a devil fruit user himself, so diving in the water wouldn't be a good thing for him, but if somebody just took like a hose and just hosed him off, would he transform back to normal? Because that kind of negates the power of normal paint, so would that affect him the same way as well? Or maybe not necessarily water in some some cases, but maybe just some other kind. Yeah, oh no, God, yeah. Because if he got hit by water and the paint just started to run, he would maybe turn into something like horrible, like something nightmares are made out of, right? Just like, yeah, so maybe not that, but maybe just some kind of solvent, something that removes paint, like paint thinner. If you just doused him with paint thinner, would he just poof turn back to normal? So that's something interesting to talk about there. I think just because of the way that Jola, loved painting and that's her particular style, she didn't really think of using her fruit in those kind of applications or any other way. She just viewed it in like, oh, using my power, I can turn people into abstract works of art. And she didn't really view anything beyond that, if she could make anything out of this. It's very similar to Kanjuro's fruit, which maybe that might be the limit there, where Kanjuro has to take, his fruit's probably like the brush fruit or something of that nature. He has to take a brush and actually draw what he wants, and then he uses his power to awaken it and turn it into a three-dimensional living thing. So he draws a sparrow and then activates his fruit, and the sparrow comes to life as he drew it, right? So in the case with Kanjuro, he has to draw it. In the case with Jola, she seems to have to take something that already exists and transform it into art. All right. The only exception with that is what we saw with the Heaven's Door, but that might not be canon. So maybe she could create something like a tank or something, but she would have to transform something into the tank. She'd have to see like a cart or something in the street and then use her powers and then poof, turn it into a tank. Or she sees a stick and she picks it up and poof, turns it into a dagger or something like that. Like she has to transform things that already exist, or humans or animals, into what she wants. She just can't make something out of nothing, right? So we see maybe that's the case there. Although she also, when she was like doing her little display of how her fruit works, she was kind of creating little ideas of like eyes in her fingers. Like she was making this shape with her hand, and like little eyeball appears there. So it is a very weird fruit. Although in that case, I guess you could say she was just transforming her own hand into something else, right? She wasn't just creating something out of nothing, right? But she could take things away from things, as we saw with Nami there, yeah. And just, like with Chopper, it makes things less practical because his hooves is how Chopper fights. His like Rosario Michiere and stuff like that. But, it transforms his hooves into just cubes, so he can't like just, he can't do anything with that, right? It's like having Legos for hands, right? So that is honestly the best advantage you have with this fruit. You have an army coming at you, you just poof, make a bunch of make that paint cloud and throw it at them, and they just explode, and all their feet turn into these really weird like shapes and stuff, and you can't walk with that. Or you transform your arm into a deflated balloon, so it's like, oh no, I can't fight like this, I can't hold a gun or a knife or a sword or a spear, dang it, it's done. Honestly, you don't even have to go further than that. Just transforming your enemies in that way basically renders them immobile, and as long as you don't actually go up to them and, reverse the transformation, you're pretty much good at that point, unless your opponent has some other type of devil fruit that can counter yours perfectly, right? If she's rendered unconscious, as we saw with Brook slicing her down, all of the effects just disappear immediately, very similar to Sugar's in that regard. An awakened form of this fruit would basically, oh god, I really hope they didn't like overlook that to the point where the Heaven's Door in the anime, that would basically be her awakening. But that was anime, so I don't think they thought that far ahead. I don't think Giolla is an awakened user, although she's old enough, she might be. But nah. Now let's not go down that road. Let's not give Jola more credit than she deserves, which is none. So yeah. But if she did have an awakened form of the art fruit, it would probably look like the Heaven's Door that she used in the anime. I would just probably go along with that. All right. Well, let me know what you think about the art fruit. What would you do with it? Okay, let's just put yourselves in Jola's artistic shoes. You have the power of the art fruit at your disposal. You have a giant dinosaur rocking toward you. You have a Tyrannosaurus Rex coming at you, and you have the power of the art fruit. What would you do to win that fight against the Tyrannosaurus Rex? That's a very specific example, but I'm going to take it away from there. You guys can explain what you would do in that situation. And anybody out there, artists, you draw, what kind of art do you draw? Is it something like this masterpiece back here, which I'm sorry, you all have to put down your brushes and your, fancy digital tablets at this point, because seeing this right here, I mean, that's got to just be like, well, this is the apex of modern art. It masters every form of art. art. You know, cubism, you know, abstract. I know there's more to it than that, and surrealism and realism. I know there's more kinds of art, but I didn't have enough time to look through everything. But yeah, this just caps it all off, so it's good, yeah? All right. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Artistic Teching signing out. Bonjour. Bonjour. Is that's hello in French. How do you say goodbye in French? I don't. Hold on. Au revoir. I should have known that. I did know that, but I blanked on. Au revoir.